The San Francisco skyline shimmered under the late afternoon sun, its glass towers reflecting a golden haze. At the city's heart, the Brooks Energy Tower stood as a monument to innovation, its sleek design a testament to the ambitions of Ethan Brooks, a white American tech billionaire whose green energy empire had reshaped the industry. His pale skin, often flushed from the intensity of his work, contrasted with his sharp blue eyes, which seemed to pierce through problems with surgical precision. At 35, Ethan was driven by a vision to power the world sustainably, though his relentless pursuit often left him isolated atop his corporate throne. On the 32nd floor, Ethan stood in his office, staring at a holographic model of his latest solar cell prototype. His crisp white shirt clung to his lean frame sleeves, rolled up as he scribbled notes on a tablet. The room hummed with the quiet efficiency of cutting-edge technology, but a faint, acrid smell began to creep through the air vents. Ethan frowned, sniffing the air. Smoke. Before he could react, the fire alarms blared their shrill cries, slicing through the calm. Outside, the streets pulsed with chaos. Sirens wailed as fire trucks roared toward the towering inferno. Among the firefighters spilling from the engines was Mia Torres, an African-American woman whose dark skin glistened with sweat under her heavy gear. At 32, Mia was a veteran of Engine Company 12, her muscular frame honed by years of battling blazes. Her deep brown eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the building as flames licked the upper floors. She adjusted her helmet, her braided hair tucked neatly beneath it, and barked orders to her team. "Torres, you're on point," Captain Ramirez shouted over the roar of the fire. "Brooks is still inside 32nd floor. Move." Mia nodded, her heart pounding, but her focus razor sharp. She grabbed her axe and oxygen tank, sprinting toward the entrance. The lobby was a haze of smoke glass crunching under her boots. The elevators were out of protocol in a fire, so she led her team to the stairwell, their heavy steps echoing in the concrete shaft. Each floor they climbed felt like a marathon, the heat intensifying as they ascended. By the 20th floor, the air was thick, the smoke stinging her eyes despite her mask. But Mia pressed on, driven by the lives depending on her. Inside his office, Ethan coughed, his lungs burning, as he crouched low to avoid the thickening smoke. Papers and electronics sparked around him, the fire spreading faster than he'd imagined possible. He'd tried the door, but the handle was scalding, and the hallway beyond was a wall of flame. Panic clawed at him, but he forced it down, his mind racing for a solution. He was Ethan Brooks. Damn it, he didn't survive by giving up. He grabbed a chair, smashing it against the reinforced window, but the glass held firm. His strength was fading, the heat overwhelming. Mia burst through the stairwell door on the 32nd floor, her team close behind. The hallway was an oven, flames curling along the walls. She scanned the layout, her training kicking in. Brooks' office was at the end. She motioned for her team to douse the flames with foam as she advanced, her axe ready to break through any obstacles. The heat pressed against her suit, but she ignored it. Her focus singular: find the civilian. "Brooks," she shouted, her voice muffled by her mask. "Ethan Brooks, where are you?" A faint thud answered her. She followed the sound, kicking open a door to find Ethan slumped against the wall, his face pale and streaked with soot. His blue eyes widened as he saw her, a figure emerging from the smoke like a warrior from legend. Mia didn't hesitate. She hauled him to his feet, her strength surprising him, and draped his arm over her shoulder. "Stay with me," she ordered, her tone firm but calm. "We're getting out." Ethan nodded weakly, his legs unsteady as she guided him through the chaos. The flames roared, louder debris falling as the ceiling groaned. Mia's team cleared a path, their hoses battling the fire, as she half-carried Ethan toward the stairwell. A beam crashed behind them, sending sparks flying, but Mia didn't flinch. She tightened her grip, her dark hands steady against Ethan's trembling frame. The descent was grueling, each step a fight against gravity and exhaustion. Ethan's coughs grew harsher, but Mia kept him moving, her voice a steady anchor. "Almost there, Brooks. Keep going." Her muscles screamed when they reached the lobby, but she pushed through, emerging into the cool night air. Paramedics swarmed, taking Ethan to an ambulance, as Mia ripped off her mask, gasping for breath. Her dark skin shone with sweat, her eyes scanning the crowd to ensure her team was safe. Ethan's oxygen mask pressed to his face stared at Mia as she stood silhouetted against the flames. Her presence was commanding, her strength undeniable. He'd built a fortune on control, but in that moment, he felt something shift: awe, gratitude, and something deeper he couldn't name. She'd saved his life, and the image of her stepping through the smoke would haunt him for days. As Mia checked in with her captain, a firefighter approached holding a scorched piece of equipment from the building. "Torres, look at this," he said, his voice low. "Wiring's cut clean. This wasn't an accident." Mia's eyes narrowed, her mind racing. "Arson." She glanced at Ethan sitting up in the ambulance, his pale face set with determination as he spoke to a police officer. Something about the fire felt wrong, and her gut told her Ethan Brooks knew more than he let on. The days that followed were a blur of reports and headlines. The fire at Brooks Energy Tower dominated the news with speculation about its cause. Ethan pored over security footage and forensic reports in his temporary office across town. His pale hands trembled as he reviewed the evidence: the cut wiring, the traces of accelerant. Someone had targeted him, and he felt he knew who. He'd built his company from nothing, a white kid from the Midwest with a knack for engineering and a chip on his shoulder. But success had enemies, and Ethan's past was littered with them. Richard Cole. His former partner came to mind, a man whose greed had clashed with Ethan's ideals, leading to a bitter split years ago. Could Richard be behind this? Determined to find answers, Ethan started with the woman who'd saved him. Mia Torres wasn't just a firefighter. She was a force, and he needed to thank her properly. He drove to Station 12, a squat brick building in the Mission District, its walls adorned with faded murals of firefighters in action. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and engine oil, the crew bustling with post-shift energy. Mia was in the garage checking equipment, her dark skin gleaming under the fluorescent lights. She wore a navy t-shirt with the station's logo, her braids in a tight bun. When Ethan approached her, eyes flicked up, wary but curious. "Ethan Brooks," she said, setting down a hose. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I owe you my life," Ethan said, his voice sincere. His pale face flushed slightly, his blue eyes meeting her brown ones. "I wanted to thank you in person, and I want to do more. Your station could use new gear, right? I can fund it." Mia's brow arched, her expression guarded. "We don't need charity from tech bros looking to score PR points." Ethan bristled, but kept his tone even. "This isn't about PR. It's about doing right by the people who saved me." Their conversation was cut short by the station's alarm calling the crew to another fire. As Mia grabbed her gear, Ethan watched her go, his mind racing. She was sharp, distrustful, and fiercely independent, qualities that intrigued and challenged him. But as he left the station, a notification pinged on his phone, an anonymous email with a single line. The fire was just the beginning. Ask Mia Torres about the wiring. Ethan's blood ran cold. Someone was playing a dangerous game, and Mia was already caught. Mia returned to the station hours later, exhausted but adrenalized from the call. The fire had been small, but her mind was still on Ethan Brooks. His offer felt too good to be true, and her instincts screamed caution. She cleaned her gear and noticed a small USB drive labeled Torres tucked into her locker. Frowning, she plugged it into a secure laptop. The drive contained a single file, A report on the Brooks Energy Tower fire. It detailed the cut wiring, the accelerant, and a cryptic reference to Project Solstice, Ethan's flagship green energy initiative. Mia's heart sank. Was Ethan involved, or was he a victim? Either way, she was in too deep now. As she locked the station for the night, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stay away from Brooks, or you'll burn next. Mia's grip tightened on her phone, her dark eyes blazing with defiance. She didn't scare easily, but someone was watching her, and she was determined to find out who. The fire station smelled of burnt coffee and diesel, a familiar comfort to Mia Torres, as she hauled a crate of new hoses into the garage. Her muscles flexed under her navy work shirt, her movements precise, despite the long shift. Station 12 was her second home, its creaky floors and chipped paint as familiar as her apartment. But today her thoughts were elsewhere, on Ethan Brooks and the cryptic USB drive she'd found last night. The report linking his Project Solstice to the fire gnawed at her, raising questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered. Ethan, meanwhile, navigated the city in his sleek electric SUV, the hum of its motor a stark contrast to the chaos in his mind. The anonymous email about the wiring had kept him up all night, its words looping like a warning siren. He needed to talk to Mia to thank her again and understand why someone was dragging her into his mess. As he pulled up to Station 12, he adjusted his jacket, his movements deliberate, masking the unease that clung to him like smoke. Inside, Mia was mid-argument with her teammate Javier over a faulty regulator valve. She said, "This thing's older than my grandma tossing it onto a workbench. We're lucky it didn't blow in our faces last night." Javier chuckled, but his expression shifted as Ethan stepped into the garage. "Heads up, Torres. Your VIP's back." Mia turned, her eyes narrowing as Ethan approached. He carried himself with the confidence of a man used to getting his way, but there was a tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. "Brooks," she said, wiping her hands on a rag. "Twice in 1 week. People might think you're stalking me." Ethan gave a half-smile, undeterred. "I meant what I said about the gear. I've got a proposal. New equipment, upgraded trucks. Whatever your station needs. No strings." Mia crossed her arms, her stance firm. "No strings. That's not how it works with guys like you. What's the real angle?" "Polishing your image after the fire." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone calm. "You saved my life, Mia. I'm not here to play games. Your station's underfunded, and I can help with that." "Why's that so hard to believe?" She shot back, "Because billionaires don't just hand out cash without wanting something. Your tower burns down, and now you're here playing hero smells like a PR stunt." The air between them crackled, their words sharp, but laced with a strange pull. Mia's defiance intrigued Ethan. She didn't bow to his name or wealth. And Mia, despite her skepticism, couldn't ignore the sincerity in his eyes, a flicker of something real beneath the polished exterior. Javier cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Torres, hear him out. New gear could save our asses next time we're in a blaze." Mia shot Javier a look, but relented. "Fine. Lay it out, Brooks. What's your pitch?" Ethan outlined a plan. A $2 million grant for Station 12, covering state-of-the-art breathing apparatuses, thermal imaging cameras, and a new engine. He spoke precisely, detailing specs and timelines, but Mia's mind wandered to the USB drive. Project Solstice, the fire, the threat on her phone. She needed answers, not donations. "Sounds nice," she said when he finished, her tone neutral. "But why us? Why not every station in the city?" Ethan hesitated, then leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Because you walked through fire for me, Mia. I trust you. And I think you know this fire wasn't an accident." Her breath caught, but she kept her expression steady. "What makes you say that?" "I got an email. he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Someone mentioned you and the wiring. I don't know what it means, but I'm betting you do. Mia's pulse quickened, the USB drive, the text. And now this. Someone was weaving a net around them both. I don't know what you're talking about. She lied and tested him. But if you're digging into something dangerous, don't drag my team into it. Ethan held her gaze unflinching. I'm not the enemy here, Mia. But someone is, and we're both targets. Before she could respond, the station's alarm blared, a harsh reminder of her reality. Duty calls, she said, grabbing her gear. We'll finish this later. As she raced to the truck, Ethan watched, his mind racing. She was tough and guarded, but a spark in her drew him in, a strength he hadn't expected. He needed her trust, but more than that, he wanted it. Mia sat in her apartment, the USB drive open on her laptop that night. The report was damning. Project Solstice, Ethan's flagship solar tech, had been linked to the tower's electrical system. A failure in its prototype could explain the fire, but the cut wiring suggested sabotage. She cross-referenced the data with public records, her fingers flying over the keyboard. One name popped up: Richard Cole, Ethan's former partner, ousted from Brooks Energy years ago after a falling out. Her phone buzzed again, another text from the unknown number. Digging too deep. Torres. Back off. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't reply. Instead, she called Javier. You know anything about Richard Cole? She asked, keeping her voice low. Cole. That sleaze who used to run with Brooks, Javier said. Heard he's been bad-mouthing Ethan ever since they split. Why? Just a hunch, Mia said, hanging up. She didn't trust Ethan, but she trusted her gut, and it was screaming that Cole was involved. The next day, Ethan returned to the station with a tablet loaded with specs for the new gear. Mia met him in the break room, her demeanor cooler than before. She said, you didn't mention Project Solstice yesterday, cutting to the chase. Why? Ethan's eyes widened slightly, but he recovered quickly. You've been doing homework. Please answer the question, she pressed. Solstice is my life's work, he said, his voice steady. It's a new solar cell efficient enough to power entire cities. The tower system was a test bed. If someone tampered with it, then they wanted your project to fail. Mia finished. Or they wanted you dead. Ethan nodded, his expression grim. I need your help, Mia. You know fires. You saw the scene. If we can figure out how it started, we can trace it back to whoever did this. Mia studied him, weighing her options. He was a risk too rich, too connected, too much trouble. But the threats on her phone, the data on the drive, she couldn't walk away. I'm not your detective, she said finally. But I'll look at the evidence. For my team, not for you. Ethan smiled, a genuine warmth breaking through. Fair enough. As they pored over the fire report together, their shoulders brushing, Mia felt a spark, not of fire, but of something else. She pushed it down, focusing on the data. But Ethan's presence, his intensity, lingered like smoke she couldn't shake. Outside, a shadow watched from across the street, a phone in hand, typing. They're getting too close. The San Francisco morning was crisp, the fog rolling off the bay like a ghostly tide. Station 12 buzzed with its usual rhythm, firefighters polishing trucks, checking gear, trading jabs over lukewarm coffee. Mia Torres leaned against a workbench in the garage, her eyes fixed on her phone, rereading the threatening text from the unknown number. Digging too deep. Torres. Back off. Her jaw tightened, but she shoved the phone into her pocket as Javier approached, his boots scuffing the concrete. Javier said, You look like you're plotting a heist, tossing her a rag. What's up? Mia caught the rag, wiping her hands absent-mindedly and just thinking about the Brooks fire. Something's off. Javier raised an eyebrow. Off? How you still hung up on that billionaire? She shot him a look. It's not about him. The wiring was cut, Javi. That's no accident. He whistled low. Arson. That's above our pay grade, Torres. Let the investigators handle it. Mia didn't respond. Her mind was already elsewhere. The USB drive she'd found in her locker sat heavy in her thoughts, its data pointing to Richard Cole, Ethan Brooks's former partner. She hadn't told Javier about the drive or the texts yet. Trust was hard-earned even among her crew, and she needed more before dragging them into this. Across town, Ethan Brooks sat in his temporary office, a sleek loft in Soma, cluttered with monitors and prototypes. His fingers tapped restlessly on a glass desk as he scrolled through news articles. The headlines were brutal. Brooks Energy fire raises, safety concerns. Tech mogul's green dream goes up in smoke. His company's stock had dipped 8% overnight, and whispers of negligence were gaining traction. Ethan's gut churned, not from the financial hit, but from the growing certainty that someone was orchestrating this. His phone buzzed with an encrypted email, no sender name, just a subject. Look closer. Attached was a grainy photo of a man in a hooded jacket near the Brooks Energy Tower, the night of the fire, holding what looked like a canister. Ethan zoomed in, his pulse quickening. The figure's face was obscured, but the jacket had a distinctive logo, a stylized flame. He'd seen it before years ago on equipment tied to Richard Cole's side ventures. Ethan's fist clenched. Richard. He needed to talk to Mia. She was sharp, fearless, and she'd hate to admit it, already tangled in this mess. Grabbing his jacket, Ethan headed for Station 12, determined to convince her they were on the same side. At the station, Mia was in the break room when Ethan walked in, his presence drawing curious glances from the crew. He carried a tablet and a determined look, his tailored jacket starkly contrasting the station's gritty chaos. Mia stood arms crossed, her expression guarded. Back again, she said. You're starting to look like a regular. Ethan said, I've got something you need to see, keeping his voice low. He handed her the tablet, and the photo of the hooded figure was displayed. This was sent to me this morning. That logo, see it? It's tied to Richard Cole, my old partner. Mia studied the image, her eyes narrowing. The flame logo matched a detail from the USB drive's report buried in a list of equipment suppliers. You're saying Cole's behind the fire? It's possible, Ethan replied. He's got motive. We split years ago over disagreements. He's been gunning for me ever since. Mia handed back the tablet, her mind racing. The USB drive, the text, now this photo. It was too much to be a coincidence. But trusting Ethan meant stepping into his world, which was a risk. Why bring this to me? Go to the police. Because you were there, Ethan said, his voice intense. You saw the fire, the wiring. You know what it takes to pull something like that off. And he hesitated, then leaned closer. Whoever sent me this mentioned you by name. Mia's stomach twisted. She hadn't told him about the texts or the drive, but the noose was tightening. What do you want? Brooks. Should I play detective for you? I want us to figure this out together, he said. Someone's targeting us both. You can't ignore that. Before Mia could respond, Captain Ramirez poked his head into the room. Torres, a word. She followed him to his office, Ethan lingering behind. Ramirez shut the door, his weathered face grim. You're getting too close to Brooks, he said. The crew's talking and I'm hearing rumors. People are saying you're mixed up in his business. Mia bristled. I'm not mixed up in anything. He's offering to fund the station. That's it. Ramirez shook his head. He's in trouble, Mia. His company's under fire literally and figuratively. You're a firefighter, not his bodyguard. Stay clear or you'll get burned. Mia nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. Ramirez was right. Ethan was a liability. But she couldn't walk away because of the threats, the data, the photo. Someone was pulling strings. Mia sat at her kitchen table that night, the USB drive plugged into her laptop. The report detailed Project Solstice's specs, revolutionary solar tech that could disrupt the energy market. But buried in the fine print was a reference to a failed prototype linked to a minor fire years ago. Cole had been involved then too, before his falling out with Ethan. Mia's fingers froze on the keyboard as her phone buzzed with another text. "Stop digging, or your station burns next." Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. She cross-referenced the drive's data with public records pulling up articles on Cole. He'd been a silent investor in several energy startups, all tanking after shady deals. The man was a vulture profiting off failure. If he was behind the fire, he wasn't working alone. Someone had access to Brooks Energy systems. Mia found Ethan waiting outside the station the next day, leaning against his SUV. "You didn't call," he said, half teasing, half serious. "Didn't know we were on a first-name basis," she shot back. But there was a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "I looked into Cole. He's dirty, but nothing solid ties him to the fire yet." Ethan nodded, impressed. "Then let's find something solid. I've got access to my company's logs, security, maintenance, all of it. If you're in, we can dig deeper." Mia hesitated. Ramirez's warning echoed in her head, but so did the threats on her phone. "Fine," she said. "But we do this my way. No secrets, Brooks." "Deal," he said, a spark of respect in his eyes. They spent the afternoon at Ethan's loft, poring over logs and blueprints. Mia's firefighting expertise gave her an edge. She spotted anomalies in the tower's electrical maintenance records entries that didn't match standard protocols. Ethan cross-checked them against employee access, his fingers flying over his tablet. "These changes were made remotely," he said. "Someone hacked in." Mia's phone buzzed again, but she ignored it, focusing on the screen. "Cole's got the know-how for this, doesn't he?" Ethan's face darkened. "He does. And the motive." As they worked, their banter softened, a tentative trust forming. Mia's sharp questions kept Ethan on his toes, while his tech savvy impressed her. But outside, the city hummed with rumors, and the news was uglier. A local outlet ran a story. Brooks Energy fire, arson suspected CEO under scrutiny. The article hinted at Ethan's negligence. Social media was eating it up. By evening, Mia's phone was flooded with notifications, texts from her crew, worried about the station's reputation. She stepped outside for air, Ethan following. "This is getting messy," she said, her voice tight. "Your drama's dragging my team down." Ethan said, "I didn't ask for this," his tone softer than usual. "But I'm not backing off. Neither should you." Mia met his gaze, her resolve hardening. "Then we find Cole. Fast." As they parted ways, a figure watched from a parked car across the street, typing into a burner phone. They're digging time to turn up the heat. The fire station's training yard was a patchwork of cracked asphalt and faded cones, but it was sacred ground to Mia Torres. She stood at the center, barking orders as her crew ran drills, scaling ladders, hauling hoses, practicing rescues. Sweat beaded on her brow as she demonstrated a carry technique, her movements fluid despite the weight of her gear. The rhythm of the work steadied her, a counterpoint to the chaos creeping into her life since Ethan Brooks walked into it. Ethan, meanwhile, was out of his element. He'd shown up at Station 12 unannounced, dressed in borrowed turnout gear that hung awkwardly on his lean frame. Mia reluctantly agreed to let him join a training session, partly to test his sincerity and keep him close while they dug into Richard Cole's trail. The crew had grumbled. Billionaires didn't belong in their world. But Mia saw something in Ethan's eyes. Determination, maybe even guilt. "Keep up, Brooks," Mia called as he struggled with a hose water spraying wildly. The crew snickered, but Ethan grinned, wiping water from his face. "Learning curve steep," he said, his voice muffled by the effort. "But I'm not quitting." Mia shook her head, hiding a smirk. He was stubborn, she'd give him that. As the drill ended, she pulled him aside, her tone serious. "Why are you really here? This isn't your world." Ethan caught his breath, his eyes meeting hers. "I lost someone once. A friend in a fire. It was years ago, a lab accident. My tech failed him. That's why I'm obsessed with green energy, why I'm here. I owe it to him to get this right." Mia's expression softened, but only for a moment. "That's a nice story, but it doesn't explain why you're playing firefighter. You want my help with Cole, fine. But don't waste my team's time." "I'm not." Ethan said, his voice firm. "I'm learning. From you. From them. If I fight this, I need to understand what you do." Before Mia could respond, the station's alarm blared a massive fire at one of Ethan's solar panel factories on the city's outskirts. The crew scrambled Mia, barking orders as they piled into the trucks. Ethan hesitated, then grabbed his borrowed gear. "I'm coming." "No way," Mia snapped. "Civilians, stay put." "It's my factory," Ethan said, his jaw set. "I know the layout. I can help." Mia cursed under her breath but nodded. "Stay behind me and do exactly what I say." The factory was a hellscape when they arrived. Flames roared from the roof, black smoke billowing into the dusk. Forklifts and crates burned the air thick with the stench of melting plastic. Mia led her team in, Ethan trailing close, his eyes wide but focused. The crew split up, some tackling the blaze with hoses, others searching for trapped workers. Mia and Ethan navigated a maze of machinery, her thermal imaging camera guiding them through the smoke. "Stay low!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the roar. Ethan obeyed, coughing as he followed. They found a worker trapped under a fallen beam, his leg pinned. Mia assessed the situation, her hands steady as she signaled Ethan to help lift. "On 3, she said. 1, 2, 3. They heaved, muscles straining, and freed the worker. Mia radioed for a medic as Ethan supported the man's weight, guiding him toward the exit. The ceiling groaned above, sparks raining down. Mia grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him back, just as a chunk of debris crashed where he'd stood. "Move!" she yelled, shoving him forward. They stumbled into the night, and the worker was handed off to paramedics. Ethan doubled over, gasping, but Mia was already barking orders to her team, her focus unshakable. As the fire came under control, Mia turned to Ethan, her eyes blazing. "You could have died in there." "What were you thinking?" he said. "I was thinking about helping," his voice hoarse like you do. Mia shook her head, but something shifted in her gaze. Respect maybe, or understanding. She admitted, "You're not as useless as I thought," a faint smile breaking through. Ethan grinned, wiping soot from his face, high praise. But the moment was cut short by a news van pulling up, cameras flashing. A reporter shoved a mic in Ethan's face. "Mr. Brooks, is this another failure of your tech? Are you responsible for this fire?" Ethan's face hardened, but before he could speak, Mia stepped in. "He helped save a life tonight. Back off." The reporter hesitated, then retreated. Ethan looked at Mia, gratitude in his eyes. "Thanks for that," she said. "Don't get used to it," but her tone was lighter. The crew was abuzz with the night's events back at the station. Mia sat in the break room cleaning her gear when Javier slid into the seat across from her. "You and Brooks looked cozy out there," he teased. Mia rolled her eyes. "He's a liability, Javi. But he's not the enemy. Not yet." Javier's grin faded. "Be careful, Mia. The news is tearing him apart. Another fire at his factory. People say he's cutting corners, maybe even starting these fires for insurance." Mia frowned. The USB drive's data flashed in her mind, the failed prototype, Cole's involvement. "You think he's dirty?" "I think he's trouble," Javier said. "And you're too good to get caught in his mess." She didn't respond, Her thoughts tangled. Ethan's story about his friend and his willingness to risk his life tonight didn't add up with the rumors. But the texts, the drive, the photo, someone was playing a long game. The next morning, Ethan showed up at the station with a stack of blueprints and a grim expression. The factory fire wasn't an accident, he said, spreading the plans on a table. Same MO as the tower cut wiring accelerant traces. Cole's fingerprints are all over this. Mia studied the blueprints, her firefighting instincts kicking in. This was deliberate. The fire started in the storage bay where your Solstice panels were kept. Someone wanted to destroy your tech. Ethan nodded, his eyes dark. And my reputation. The news is killing me. Another hit like this and my company's done. Mia met his gaze, her resolve hardening. Then we need proof, hard evidence, not just photos and hunches. You got access to the factory's security feeds. Already pulled them, Ethan said, handing her a USB drive, not unlike the one she'd found in her locker. But we need to move fast. Whoever's doing this isn't stopping. As they worked, their heads bent over the table, Mia felt the distance between them shrink. Ethan's intensity, his refusal to back down, mirrored her own. But outside, the city was turning against him. Social media exploded with hashtags, #BrooksBurns, #GreenFraud. Another text hit Mia's phone. He's going down, and you're next. She deleted it, her jaw set. Let's get to work, she said, her voice steady. We're taking Cole down before he burns anything else. Across town, a figure in a flame logoed jacket watched the news, a burner phone in hand, typing. They're not stopping time to hit harder. The San Francisco dawn broke gray and heavy, the city shrouded in fog that clung to the streets like a lingering doubt. Mia Torres stood outside Station 12, her breath visible in the chilly air as she checked her phone. Another threatening text had arrived overnight. You're playing with fire, Torres. Drop it. She deleted it, her jaw tight, but the words gnawed at her. The evidence against Richard Cole was mounting cut wiring accelerant traces, a flame logoed jacket, but it was all circumstantial. And Ethan Brooks, the man at the center of this storm, was either a victim or a mastermind. Mia wasn't sure which. Inside the station, the crew was subdued, the factory fire still fresh in their minds. The news had spun it into a scandal, painting Ethan as a reckless CEO whose green tech was a danger to the city. Mia overheard Javier muttering to another firefighter about Brooks's mess, dragging the station's name through the mud. She ignored them, focusing on the security footage Ethan had sent her from the factory. Grainy images showed a shadowed figure moving through the storage bay hours before the blaze, but the face was obscured. It wasn't enough. Ethan arrived at the station mid-morning, his usual polish replaced by a haggard edge. His jacket was rumpled, his eyes shadowed from sleepless nights. He carried a laptop and a stack of printouts, his determination undimmed despite the headlines tearing into him. Got something new, he said, finding Mia in the break room maintenance logs from the factory. Someone accessed the system remotely, the same as the tower. Mia took the printouts, her fingers brushing his. She pulled back, focusing on the data. Same IP address, she asked. Not quite, Ethan said, opening his laptop. But the access pattern matches. Whoever did this knew our systems inside out. Cole worked on Solstice with me years ago. He'd know how to exploit it. Mia's eyes narrowed. You're quick to point at him. What if it's someone closer? An employee? Ethan met her gaze, unflinching. I've vetted my team. But I get it. You don't trust me yet. Trust is earned, Brooks, she said, her tone sharp but not unkind. And right now your name's on every news channel, not in a good way. He nodded, accepting the jab. Then let's find the truth. Together. Before they could dive deeper, the station's alarm blared. Another fire, this time at a warehouse in Hunters Point, owned by a Brooks Energy subsidiary. Mia's stomach sank. This was no coincidence. She grabbed her gear, Ethan following without hesitation. "You're not coming," she said, blocking his path. "It's my warehouse," he countered. "I know the layout. You need me." Mia cursed under her breath but relented. "Stay out of my way." The warehouse was a raging inferno when they arrived, flames leaping from shattered windows. The air was thick with acrid smoke, the heat of physical force. Mia led her team in her focus razor sharp as she barked orders. Ethan stayed close. His borrowed gear was awkward, but his resolve was steady. The crew split up, some tackling the blaze with hoses, others searching for trapped workers. Inside the warehouse was a labyrinth of crates and machinery, the fire spreading faster than expected. Mia's thermal imaging camera guided her through the smoke, Ethan at her side. They found a worker pinned under a collapsed pallet, his cries barely audible over the roar. Mia assessed the situation, her hands steady as she signaled Ethan to help lift. "On my count," she said. 1, 2, lift. They heaved, muscles straining, and freed the worker. Ethan supported his weight, guiding him toward the exit as Mia cleared a path. The ceiling groaned, debris raining down. Mia grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him out of harm's way, just as a beam crashed. "Move!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. They stumbled outside, handing the worker to paramedics. Ethan coughed, his lungs burning, but he stayed upright, his eyes locked on Mia as she directed her team. Her strength, her fearlessness, it hit him harder than the smoke. But as the fire came under control, a news crew descended, cameras flashing. "Mr. Brooks," a reporter shouted, "another fire at your property. Are you cutting corners to save costs?" Ethan's jaw clenched, but before he could respond, a new headline flashed on the reporter's tablet. "Brooks, energy accused of tax evasion." The words hit like a punch. Ethan's company was hemorrhaging credibility, its stock plummeting 15% in hours. He turned to Mia, his expression raw. "This isn't me." Mia studied him, her instincts warring. The texts, the fires now. This she wanted to believe him, but doubt lingered. "Then prove it," she said quietly. "Because right now, the world thinks you're the bad guy." The crew was tense at the station, the news playing on a loop in the break room. Mia cleaned her gear, her mind racing. Ethan's story about his friend's death, his risk-taking in the warehouse. It didn't align with a man who'd burn his own empire. But the evidence was stacking against him, and her own team was starting to question her involvement. Javier cornered her in the garage. "Torres, you're too deep in this. Brooks is toxic. The brass is watching us now thanks to him." "I'm not in his pocket," Mia snapped. "I'm figuring out who's targeting us. You saw the wiring at the tower. This isn't random." Javier shook his head. "Just watch your back. You're not a cop." Mia didn't respond, but his words stung. She was a firefighter, not a detective, yet she chased leads with a billionaire she barely trusted. That night, she met Ethan at his loft, the city skyline glittering through the windows. He'd pulled more data, security logs, employee records, anything pointing to Cole. As they worked, Mia noticed the strain in Ethan's posture, the weight of the accusations wearing him down. She said, "You don't talk much about that friend you lost," breaking the silence, the one in the fire. Ethan's hands stilled on his keyboard. His name was Sam. "We were working on a prototype in the early days of Brooks Energy. I missed a flaw in the design. It caught fire. He didn't make it out." His voice was low, raw. "I've been trying to make it right ever since." Mia nodded, the confession shifting something in her. "That's why Solstice matters so much." "Yeah," he said, meeting her eyes. "And why I can't let Cole or whoever's behind this destroy it." They worked late, their heads bent over the data, their shoulders brushing. Mia felt the pull between them, a connection she couldn't ignore. But as she left, her phone buzzed with another text. "You're next, Torres." She deleted it, her resolve hardening. She was in too deep to back out now. The next day, the news hit harder. A leaked document claimed Ethan had dodged taxes through offshore accounts, further tanking his company's stock. Mia watched the reports at the station, her crew's whispers growing louder. She confronted Ethan at his office, her frustration boiling over. "Is any of this true?" she demanded, tossing a printout of the tax story on his desk. "Because if you're lying to me, Brooks, I'm done." Ethan stood, his eyes fierce. "It's a lie. Cole's behind this, I know it. He's got the connections to plant stories and fake documents. He wants to ruin me." "Then give me something solid," Mia said. "I'm risking my career here." Ethan handed her a new USB drive. Bank records. They show payments from Cole to a shell company tied to the Flame logoed equipment. It's not proof of arson, but it's a start. Mia took the drive, her fingers lingering on his. "No more secrets," she said. "If we're doing this, it's all in." "Deal." Ethan said, a flicker of relief in his eyes. As Mia left, the news played a new angle. Brooks Energy's CEO linked to arson cover-up. The city turned against him, and Mia was caught in the crossfire. But the spark between them, forged in the heat of the warehouse fire, was growing stronger, and she wasn't sure she could or wanted to put it out. The air in Station 12 was tense, the usual banter replaced by hushed conversations and wary glances. Mia Torres sat in the break room, the news blaring on the TV. Brooks Energy scandal deepens, CEO accused of environmental fraud. The latest hit was a forged report leaked to the press, claiming Ethan's Solstice project had caused environmental damage through faulty testing. Mia's crew watched in silence, their trust in her wavering as her connection to Ethan drew scrutiny. Mia muted the TV, her hands steady despite the storm in her mind. The USB drive Ethan had given her sat in her pocket, its bank records linking Richard Cole to a shell company. It was a lead, but not enough to clear Ethan's name or hers. The threatening texts hadn't stopped the latest one arriving that morning. "You'll pay for siding with him." She hadn't told Ethan about the threats, not wanting to fuel his recklessness, but the weight was wearing her down. Ethan, meanwhile, was holed up in his loft, his team scrambling to contain the PR disaster. The forged report was meticulous, citing fake data on Solstice's environmental impact. Ethan's analysts traced the leak to an anonymous server, but he knew Cole's handiwork when he saw it. The man had always been a snake, twisting truths to serve his greed. Ethan's phone buzzed with a new email, but there was no sender. "Give up Solstice or it worsens." Attached was a photo of Mia leaving the station, unaware she was being watched. Ethan's blood ran cold. He grabbed his keys and headed for Station 12, his mind racing. Mia was in danger because of him. He couldn't let that stand. Mia was checking equipment at the station when Ethan burst in, his urgency drawing stares from the crew. "We need to talk," he said, pulling her to a quiet corner. "Someone's watching you. I got a photo sent to me." Mia's stomach twisted as he showed her the image. She stepped out of the station last night, her face clear in the streetlight. She admitted, "This is from the same people sending me texts," her voice low. "They've been threatening me since the tower fire." Ethan's eyes darkened. "Why didn't you tell me?" She snapped. "Because I handle my own problems." But her tone softened. "But yeah, we're doing this together now. What's your next move?" "We expose Cole," Ethan said. "Your bank records tie him to the equipment used in the fires. We've got him. Can we link that to the forged report?" Mia nodded, but doubt lingered. "Cole's not stupid. He's covering his tracks. We need more." Before they could plan further, Captain Ramirez called Mia into his office. "You're on thin ice, Torres," he said, his voice gruff. "The brass is asking questions about your involvement with Brooks. They're talking suspension if this gets worse." Mia's chest tightened. but she kept her expression neutral. "I'm doing my job, Captain. Nothing else." "Then, keep it that way." Ramirez said no more side quests with billionaires. Back in the garage, Mia found Ethan waiting, his laptop open. He said, "I hacked into the shell company's server," keeping his voice low. "Found invoices for the flame-logoed equipment signed by Cole himself. He hired a contractor to plant the tower and factory accelerant." Mia's eyes widened. "That's the link we needed. But we can't just hand this to the police, it'll get buried in red tape. We need to go public." Ethan hesitated. "That's risky. The media's already slaughtering me. Another leak could backfire. Then we control the narrative," Mia said, her resolve firm. "We release the invoices, the photos, everything. Let the public decide who's the villain." Ethan studied her, a spark of admiration in his eyes. "You're relentless, you know that." She learned it in the fire, and a faint smile broke through. They spent the afternoon crafting a press release, compiling the evidence into a damning package. Mia's firefighting instincts guided her. She knew how to cut through the noise, just like cutting through smoke. Ethan's tech expertise filled in the gaps, tracing digital footprints to solidify the case against Cole. As they worked, their banter flowed, the tension easing into something warmer, more familiar. But the news struck again that evening. A new report, this time with falsified emails, claimed Mia had taken bribes from Ethan to cover up his company's failures. The story hit social media like wildfire, with hashtags like #CorruptFirefighter trending. Mia's crew turned cold, their trust fraying. Javier pulled her aside, his face grim. "Is this true, Torres? You're taking money from him?" "No," Mia said, her voice steady, but her heart racing. "It's a lie. Cole's trying to discredit me." "Then prove it," Javier said, echoing her earlier words to Ethan, "because this is tearing us apart." Mia's phone buzzed with another text. "Told you to back off. Now you burn." She deleted it, her hands shaking. She found Ethan outside, his face pale as he scrolled through the news. "They're coming for you now," he said. "This is my fault." "No," Mia said, her voice fierce. "This is Cole's doing. We end this. Now." They finalized the press release and sent it to every major outlet in the city. The evidence was clear. Invoices, photos, server logs, all pointing to Cole's sabotage. But as they hit send, Ethan's phone rang, an unknown number. He answered, his face hardening, as a distorted voice spoke. "You're too late, Brooks. The subsequent fire's already set." Mia overheard, her blood running cold. "Where?" she demanded. Ethan hung up, his expression grim. He didn't say. "But it's big. We need to warn your team." They raced to the station, Mia briefing Ramirez on the threat. The captain was skeptical, but mobilized the crew, alerting every station. As Mia suited up, Ethan grabbed her arm. "I'm coming with you." "No," she said, pulling free. "You've done enough. This is my fight now." But Ethan's eyes were fierce. "It's our fight, Mia. I'm not letting you face this alone." She hesitated, then nodded. The spark between them was undeniable, a flame neither could extinguish. But as they prepared for the unknown, a shadow moved outside the station, a figure in a flame-logoed jacket, watching, waiting, ready to strike. The San Francisco night was restless. The city's pulse quickened by the latest headlines branding Mia Torres, a corrupt firefighter, and Ethan Brooks, a corporate villain. Station 12 felt like a pressure cooker. The crew's usual camaraderie replaced by sidelong glances and whispered doubts. Mia stood in the garage, checking her gear with mechanical precision, her mind tangled with anger and resolve. The forged emails, claiming she'd taken bribes from Ethan, had hit hard, threatening her career and the trust of her team. The anonymous texts, "You burn next," still haunted her, but she pushed them down, focusing on the evidence they'd sent to the press, invoices, server logs, photos, all pointing to Richard Cole. Ethan arrived at the station just after midnight, his face drawn from battling the media storm. His tailored jacket was replaced by a simple hoodie, as if he were trying to shed the billionaire label. He found Mia alone, her hands gripping a hose nozzle like a lifeline. "You saw the news," he said, his voice low. "I'm sorry, Mia. This is because of me." She turned her eyes fierce. "Don't apologize. Cole's the one pulling the strings. But I need to know everything, Ethan, no more half-truths. If we're fighting this, I want complete transparency." Ethan nodded, his expression raw. He led her to the break room, shutting the door against the curious eyes of the crew. "There's something I haven't told you," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "Years ago, when I started Brooks Energy, there was a fire. A small one in a lab. My fault, a flaw in a battery prototype I designed. No one died, but it could have been bad. I covered it up and paid off the inspectors. I was young, stupid, scared. That's what Cole's holding over me. He was there, knew everything." Mia's jaw tightened, but she kept her gaze steady. "So he's using that to frame you now?" "I think so," Ethan said. "The forged emails, the tax evasion claims, and the environmental report are all built on that kernel of truth. He's twisting it to destroy me and you." Mia leaned against the table, processing. The confession didn't surprise her. She'd sensed Ethan was carrying something heavy, but it complicated things. "You should have told me sooner," she said. "If this comes out, it'll bury you. And me." "I know," Ethan said, stepping closer. "That's why I'm telling you now. I trust you, Mia, more than anyone." The air between them thickened, charged with something beyond the case. Mia felt the pull toward him and the way his honesty cracked her defenses. But trust was a battlefield, and she wasn't ready to surrender. "Trust goes both ways," she said. "If we're doing this, no more secrets. And we take Cole down, no matter what it costs." Ethan nodded, a spark of admiration in his eyes. "Deal." Captain Ramirez burst in before they could plan further, his face grim. "Torres, we've got a problem. City Hall's pulling our funding. They're saying your involvement with Brooks is a liability. Effective immediately, we're on a skeleton budget." Mia's heart sank. "This is Cole," she said. "He's hitting us where it hurts." Ramirez's eyes narrowed. "Then fix it, Torres, or you're out." Mia and Ethan met at his loft the next day, and the city skyline was a stark backdrop to their urgency. They spread the evidence: Cole's invoices, the flame-logoed jacket photo, the server logs. Mia's firefighting instincts kicked in, analyzing the patterns like she would a blaze. "He's escalating," she said. "The fires, the leaks, now the budget cut. He's trying to isolate us." Ethan nodded, his fingers flying over his laptop. "I'm tracking his financials. He's funneled money through 3 shell companies, but I found a 4th. It's linked to a contractor working on the tower and the factory." Mia leaned over, studying the screen. Their shoulders brushed, and she didn't pull away. "We've got him. Can we tie that contractor to the accelerant?" They worked through the morning, piecing together a timeline. The contractor Vargas had a history of shady jobs tied to Cole's ventures. Mia cross-referenced his name with fire department records, finding a report of him at the tower site days before the blaze. "This is it," she said, her voice tight with excitement. "We've got a name, a connection." But the victory was short-lived. Mia's phone buzzed with a news alert. Firefighter Torres implicated in Brooks' scandal. The article cited anonymous sources claiming she'd falsified reports to protect Ethan. Her crew's group chat lit up, Javier's message blunt. "This faithful Mia." She slammed her phone down, her hands shaking. "He's ruining me." Ethan reached for her hand, then stopped, sensing her need for space. "We'll fight this," he said, "together." Mia met his gaze, her anger softening. His determination, his willingness to stand with her, it was breaking through her walls. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You could walk away, save your company." "Let me take the fall," Ethan said, Because you walked through fire for me. His voice low. And because I care about you, Mia, more than I should. The confession hung between them, raw and unguarded. Mia's breath caught her heart racing. She wanted to push back to keep her distance, but the truth was undeniable. She felt it too. She said, "We can't do this." But her voice lacked conviction. "Not now." "I know," Ethan said, stepping back. "But when this is over, we're talking about it." Mia nodded, her resolve firm, but her heart unsteady. They returned to the evidence, their focus sharper than ever. By evening, they had a solid case: Vargas's payments, Cole's signatures, a trail leading back to the fires. They sent an updated press release to every outlet, demanding an investigation into Cole. But as Mia left the loft, her phone buzzed again. "You're out of time, Torres." Attached was a photo of Station 12 taken that night. Her blood ran cold. Cole wasn't just coming for her. He was coming for her team. The next morning, Mia briefed her crew, ignoring their wary looks. "We're on high alert," she said. "Someone's targeting us. Check every inch of this station, wiring, alarms, everything." Javier pulled her aside after. "This is on you, Mia. You brought Brooks into our house and now we're paying for it." "I'm fixing it," she said, her voice fierce. "Trust me." But trust was crumbling, and Mia felt it. She met Ethan at a coffee shop away from prying eyes. "Station's at risk," she said. "We need to end this now." Ethan nodded, his laptop open. "Vargas is the key. I found his address. We confront him and get a confession." Mia hesitated. "That's dangerous. He's Cole's guy." Ethan said, "Which is why we do it together." His eyes locked on hers. "You're not alone in this, Mia." She nodded, the weight of his words settling in her chest. They were partners now, bound by more than just evidence. The city churned with rumors as they planned their next move, and Cole's shadow loomed larger. Mia's phone buzzed again. Last warning. She deleted it, her hand steady. She was done running. The San Francisco skyline burned red as dusk settled the city, unaware of the inferno about to erupt. Mia Torres stood outside Station 12. Her gear checked and rechecked, her mind on the address. Ethan had uncovered a rundown apartment in the Tenderloin, where Vargas, Cole's contractor, lived. The evidence against Cole was solid, but incomplete without a confession, and Vargas was their best shot. Mia's phone had been silent since the last threat, but the quiet felt ominous, like the calm before a blaze. Ethan pulled up in his SUV, his face set with determination. He'd traded his hoodie for a dark jacket, his usual polish replaced by a raw intensity. "Ready?" he asked, stepping out. Mia nodded, her jaw tight. "We get in, get answers, get out. No heroics, Brooks." He gave a half smile. "You're the hero, Torres. I'm just along for the ride." They drove to the Tenderloin, the city's underbelly, starkly contrasting Ethan's high-tech world. Vargas's building was a crumbling relic, its halls reeking of mildew. Mia led the way, her firefighter's instincts keeping her alert. They knocked on Vargas's door, but no answer came. Ethan picked the lock, a skill he admitted learning in his less polished days, and they slipped inside. The apartment was a mess, littered with takeout containers and blueprints. Mia spotted a flame-logoed jacket on a chair matching the one from the tower fire photo. "Jackpot," she whispered, snapping a picture. But before they could search further, her phone blared with the station's emergency tone, a high-rise fire downtown, massive with civilians trapped. "We have to go," Mia said, her heart racing. "Vargas can wait." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "I'm with you." The high-rise was a glass and steel giant, its upper floors engulfed in flames. Smoke poured into the night sirens, wailing as fire trucks converged. Mia's crew was already on the scene, and Captain Ramirez was barking orders. She suited up, and Ethan grabbed spare gear despite her protests. I know the building, he said. It's a Brooks Energy client. I can guide you. Mia didn't have time to argue. Stay close, she snapped, leading her team inside. The lobby was chaos evacuees, streaming out as smoke thickened. Mia's radio crackled with reports of trapped workers on the 15th floor. She and Ethan took the stairwell, her team splitting off to tackle the blaze from below. The heat was suffocating the air, a haze of ash. Mia's thermal imaging camera guided them, but the fire was spreading fast, fed by something unnatural accelerant, she was sure. Ethan kept pace. His breathing labored, but his focus sharp. They reached the 15th floor, finding a group of workers huddled in a conference room, the door blocked by debris. Please help me, Mia shouted, grabbing her axe. Ethan joined her, their hands working in sync to clear the wreckage. The ceiling groaned, sparks raining down. Mia's training kept her steady, but Ethan's presence grounded her in a way she hadn't expected. They freed the door, ushering the workers toward the stairwell, but the fire surged, a wall of flame cutting off their escape. Mia's heart pounded as she scanned for options. Service elevator, Ethan said, pointing to a hallway. It's reinforced, might still be working. Against protocol, Mia said, but the flames left no choice. They herded the workers to the elevator, and Mia pried the doors open with her axe. The car was intact, but the power flickered. Ethan hot-wired the panel, his hands steady despite the chaos. The elevator lurched downward, the workers' panicked breaths filling the space. As they neared the ground floor, a deafening crash shook the building. The elevator stalled, trapped between floors. Smoke seeped through the seams, and Mia's radio crackled with Ramirez's voice. Torres, get out! The structure's failing! Mia met Ethan's eyes, a silent agreement passing between them. They pried open the hatch, boosting the workers to the floor, above where firefighters were waiting. But as Mia climbed, the elevator shuddered, cables snapping. Ethan grabbed her, pulling her up as the car plummeted, crashing below in sparks. They collapsed on the floor, gasping, the workers safe, but the building crumbling. Mia's arm was burned, the pain sharp but ignorable. Ethan was worse, blood seeped from a gash on his side, debris having caught him during the escape. You're hurt, Mia said, her voice tight. I'm fine, he lied, wincing as she helped him up. They staggered to the stairwell, leaning on each other as the fire roared behind. The moment felt surreal, the line between life and death razor thin. Mia's hand gripped his, her strength anchoring them both. Outside, paramedics swarmed, bandaging Ethan as Mia briefed Ramirez. The fire was under control, but the damage was done. Another Brooks-linked building, another headline. Mia's crew watched her. Their trust was fractured, but their respect for her actions was undeniable. Ethan, patched up but pale, met her gaze across the chaos. You saved me again, he said, his voice barely audible. You saved me too. She admitted, the words heavy with meaning. In that moment, staring into his eyes, Mia knew the spark between them had ignited into something deeper, something she couldn't deny even if it scared her. The crew was quiet at the station, processing the night's losses. The news was relentless, spinning the high-rise fire as another Brooks failure. Mia found Ethan in the break room, his side bandaged, his laptop open. He said, "They're saying I caused this," his voice hollow. "Cole's winning." "Not yet," Mia said, sitting beside him. "We've got Vargas's jacket and the invoices. We're close." Ethan looked at her, his expression raw. "I almost lost you tonight. I can't. I won't let that happen again." Mia's heart skipped, but she kept her voice steady. "Then, we finished this for both of us." They worked through the night, piecing together the final evidence. The high-rise fire bore the same markers: cut wiring, accelerant, and Cole's signature. But as dawn broke, Mia's phone buzzed with a new text. "You survived. He won't." Attached was a photo of Ethan taken during the fire, his face clear in the flames. Mia showed it to Ethan, and her resolve was hardening. Cole's not just after your company, she said. He's after you. Ethan nodded, his eyes fierce. Then let's bring him down. As they planned their next move, the city stirred, unaware of the battle raging in its shadows. Mia and Ethan were bound now, not just by justice, but something more substantial, a flame that burned brighter than the fires they fought. The San Francisco morning was heavy with fog, muffling the city's hum as Station 12 stood quiet, its crew grappling with the fallout of the high-rise fire. Mia Torres sat in this break room, her eyes fixed on a cracked coffee mug, her mind racing. The latest news cycle was brutal. Headlines screamed of her alleged corruption, claiming she'd taken bribes from Ethan Brooks to cover up his company's failures. The forged emails planted by Richard Cole had shredded her reputation, and her crew's trust hung by a thread. Her phone silent since the last threatening text. You survived. He won't felt like a ticking bomb in her pocket. Ethan was across town in his loft, and the city skyline was a gray blur through his windows. His side ached from the gash he'd sustained in the high-rise fire, but the pain was nothing compared to the weight of his company's collapse. Brooks Energy's stock had plummeted another 20%, and investors were pulling out. The forged environmental reports and tax evasion claims tied to Cole had painted him as a pariah. But the photo of Mia in the fire, sent with the latest threat, burned in his mind. Cole wasn't just after him, he was targeting her, and Ethan couldn't let that stand. He drove to Station 12, his SUV cutting through the fog, and his mindset was on one goal, and this. Mia met him in the garage, her expression guarded, but her eyes sharp. You look like hell, she said, noting his bandaged side. Feel like it too, Ethan replied, managing a grim smile. But we're close. The jacket from Vargas's place, the invoices, and the server logs are enough to nail Cole. We need to tie it to him publicly. Mia nodded, her jaw tight. The press isn't on our side. They're eating up Cole's lies. And now they're saying I'm in your pocket. Ethan's fists clenched. I saw. It's my fault you're doing this. No. Mia said, her voice firm. It's Cole's. But we need more than evidence. We need Vargas to talk. They agreed to confront Vargas again, but before they could plan, Captain Ramirez stormed in. Torres, you're benched, he said, his voice like gravel. City Hall's pushing for your suspension. They say you're too close to Brooks. Mia's heart sank, but she stood tall. I'm not dirty, Captain. You know that. I know, Ramirez said, softening slightly. But you're playing a dangerous game. Step back or you'll lose everything. Mia didn't respond, and her resolve was hardening. She couldn't step back, not with Cole threatening her team station or life. She turned to Ethan. We hit Vargas tonight. No waiting. Ethan nodded, his eyes meeting hers with a shared intensity. Let's do it. That evening they returned to Vargas's apartment, the Tenderloin's neon lights flickering through the fog. The door was ajar, the apartment trashed furniture, overturned papers scattered. Mia's instincts screamed ambush, but they pressed inside, finding a laptop left open on a table. Ethan hacked in, his fingers flying as Mia kept watch. The screen revealed emails between Vargas and Cole, and explicit orders to plant accelerants at the tower factory and high-rise. It was the smoking gun they needed. But as Ethan downloaded the files, a new email popped up, which was sent minutes ago. Brooks and Torres are done. Lay the final nail. Attached was a forged document claiming Mia had falsified fire reports to protect Ethan, complete with fake signatures. It was set to hit the press in hours. Mia's blood ran cold. He's trying to bury me for good. Ethan grabbed her hand, his grip steady. We'll beat him to it. We release everything now. They returned to Ethan's loft, compiling the evidence into a public statement. Mia's firefighting precision guided their approach, ensuring every detail was airtight. Ethan's tech expertise formatted the release, embedding the email's invoices and photos. They sent it to every major outlet, demanding an investigation into Cole's sabotage. But as they hit send, Mia's phone buzzed with a new text. "You'll regret this." She showed it to Ethan, her voice steady despite the threat. He's scared. That means we're close. But the news broke faster than they expected. The forged document hit first, flooding social media with hashtags like @TorresBribed and Brooks cover-up. Mia's crew texted her their messages, a mix of anger and betrayal. Javier's was the sharpest. "You lied to us, Mia. We're done." Mia's chest tightened, but she pushed it down. "We need to find Vargas," she said. "He's the key to proving this." Ethan hesitated, his eyes searching hers. "You're risking everything, Mia. Your job, your team. I know," she cut in, her voice fierce. "But I'm not letting Cole win, not after what he's done to us." Ethan nodded, a flicker of something more profound in his gaze. "Admiration, maybe love. Then we do this together." They tracked Vargas to a warehouse in Oakland, a lead from his laptop's GPS data. The building was a hulking shadow, its windows dark. Inside, they found Vargas packing a bag, his movements frantic. Mia stepped forward, her voice commanding and going somewhere. Vargas froze, his eyes darting. "I don't know anything." "We've got your emails," Ethan said, holding up a printout. "You worked for Cole. You set the fires." Vargas's shoulders slumped, his defiance crumbling. "He paid me," he admitted, his voice low. "Said Brooks was a fraud and needed to be stopped. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Mia recorded his confession on her phone, her heart pounding. "Who else is involved?" she demanded. Vargas shook his head. "Just Cole. He's got the money, the connections. But he's not alone. Someone's backing him, someone big. I don't know who." Before they could press further, headlights flashed outside. Vargas bolted, disappearing into the shadows. Mia and Ethan gave chase, but he was gone, swallowed by the night. They returned to the loft, the confession a victory, but not enough to clear their names. The next morning, the press release hit, exposing Cole's emails and Vargas's role. The public response was mixed. Some outlets called for Cole's arrest. Others doubled down on Mia and Ethan's guilt. Mia's suspension was confirmed, and her badge was stripped pending investigation. She stood outside Station 12, her crew avoiding her eyes, and felt the weight of her choices. Ethan found her there, his face grim but resolute. "I'm shutting down Solstice," he said. "The project's tainted now. If it saves you and your team, it's worth it." Mia stared at him, stunned. "That's your life's work. You're worth more," he said, his voice raw. "Your station, your crew, they need you. I can rebuild." Mia's throat tightened, the spark between them flaring. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but his sacrifice broke something in her. "We're not done," she said instead. "We've got Vargas's confession. We keep fighting." Ethan nodded, his hand brushing hers. "Together." But as they walked away, a news alert flashed on Mia's phone. Richard Cole denies allegations, vows to sue Brooks Energy. The fight was far from over, and Cole's shadow loomed larger than ever. The San Francisco air was thick with tension, the city buzzing with the fallout of Mia and Ethan's press release. Station 12 was a ghost town, its crew on edge, as Mia's suspension left a void. She sat in her apartment, the forged emails and headlines replaying in her mind. Vargas's confession was a start, but Cole's counterattack, denying everything, threatening lawsuits, had muddied the waters. Her phone stayed silent. No new threats, but the quiet felt like a trap. She needed to move, to fight, to reclaim her life. Ethan was in his loft, his team scrambling to salvage what was left of Brooks Energy. Shutting down Project Solstice had been a gut punch, but he stood by it. If it protected Mia and her station, it was worth the cost. The press release had gained traction, with some outlets digging into Cole's past, but the public was divided. Hashtags like #JusticeForTorres clashed with #BrooksFraud, and Ethan felt the weight of every accusation. But Mia's strength, her refusal to back down, kept him grounded. He couldn't let her fight alone. He called her, his voice urgent. "We need to go public again. Vargas's confession isn't enough. We need to show the world Cole's the villain." Mia agreed, meeting him at a neutral spot, a quiet cafe in the Mission District. They sat in a corner, laptops open, plotting their next move. Mia's firefighting instincts guided their strategy. Control the narrative, contain the damage, extinguish the lies. "We release the confession," she said. "Video, audio, everything. Let people hear Vargas in his own words." Ethan nodded, his tech savvy kicking in. "I'll amplify it, social media, live streams, every platform. But we need to be ready for Cole's response. He's got someone bigger behind him, like Vargas said." Mia's eyes narrowed. "Then we draw them out. Make Cole panic." They edited the confession into a tight video, overlaying it with the emails, invoices, and photos. Ethan used his network to push it to influencers, journalists, and activists, bypassing the mainstream outlets Cole had in his pocket. Mia drafted a statement, her words raw but powerful, calling for justice, not just for her, but for every firefighter caught in Cole's web. They uploaded it at midnight, and the video went viral within hours. The response was electric. Protesters gathered outside Cole's office demanding answers. Social media erupted with support and #takedown. Cole trended alongside #TorresTruth. By morning, the police announced an investigation into Cole's financial dealings, citing the evidence Mia and Ethan had provided. Vargas's confession was the linchpin, his voice echoing across the city. But Cole struck back. A press conference aired live, his polished demeanor unshaken. "These accusations are baseless," he said, holding up forged documents of his own. "Brooks and Torres are desperate, fabricating lies to save themselves." He hinted at a powerful ally protecting him. A cryptic jab that sent a chill through Mia. She and Ethan watched from his loft, the city skyline a backdrop to their tension. "He's not bluffing," Mia said. "Vargas mentioned a backer, someone's pulling strings." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we find them. I've got to contact a hacker who can dig into Cole's communications. If there's a trail, we'll follow it." Mia nodded, but her heart was heavy. Her suspension had left her crew short-handed, and the station's budget cuts were biting harder. She missed the weight of her gear, the rush of a call, the unity of her team. Ethan sensed her turmoil, reaching for her hand. "You're not alone in this," he said. "We'll get your life back." Mia didn't pull away. The warmth of his touch grounded her. "And yours," she said, her voice soft but firm. "We're in this together." The hacker came through that night, delivering encrypted emails between Cole and an unknown figure called the Patron. The emails discussed payments, sabotage plans, and a cryptic mention of clearing the board. Mia and Ethan cross-referenced the data with fire department records, finding a pattern. Every fire had targeted a Brooks Energy project tied to Solstice, designed to cripple Ethan's legacy. They took the new evidence to a trusted journalist, a friend of Mia's from her early days on the job. The story broke the next day. Richard Cole linked to arson conspiracy. The article detailed the emails, the Patron's involvement, and Vargas's confession, painting Cole as the mastermind. Protests grew louder, and the police raided Cole's office, arresting him on charges of fraud and conspiracy to commit arson. Mia and Ethan watched the arrest on the news, a weight lifting, but it was not gone. "It's not over," Mia said, her eyes on the screen. "The Patron's still out there." Ethan nodded, his hand brushing hers. We'll find them. But for now, we won. You're clear, Mia. She shook her head. Not yet. My crew still doesn't trust me. The station's still broken. Then we fix it. Ethan said, his voice resolute. I'm funding a new training center for your station. No strings. It's the least I can do. Mia looked at him, the spark between them undeniable. You don't quit, do you? Not when it comes to you, he said, his eyes locked on hers. The city began to shift, public support swinging back to Mia and Ethan. Petitions called for her reinstatement, and donations poured in for Station 12. But as they celebrated their victory, a final email hit Ethan's inbox, and there was no sender. You stopped Cole, but I'm still here. Attached was a photo of the high-rise fire Mia and Ethan silhouetted against the flames. Mia's phone buzzed simultaneously, and a text from an unknown number said, "This isn't over." She met Ethan's gaze, their resolve mirrored. Cole was down, but the real fight, the patron, was still in the shadows, waiting to strike. The San Francisco morning was crisp, the fog lifting to reveal a city stirring with cautious hope. Station 12 buzzed with a different energy, less tense, more purposeful, as the crew processed the news of Richard Cole's arrest. Mia Torres stood in the garage, polishing a fire truck's chrome. Her movements steady, but her mind restless. The public tide was turning, with petitions demanding her reinstatement, gaining thousands of signatures, but her suspension still stung. Her crew's trust was mending, yet the shadow of the patron Cole's mysterious backer loomed large. The latest threat. This isn't over sat heavy in her pocket, a reminder that the fight wasn't done. Across town, Ethan Brooks paced his loft, the skyline a glittering backdrop to his churning thoughts. Shutting down Project Solstice had saved Mia's station, but gutted his company's future. Thanks to the viral exposure of Cole's crimes, Brooks' energy was stabilizing, but the stock was still shaky, and investors were wary. The emailed photo of him and Mia in the high-rise fire, and the patron's message kept him on edge. Someone was still out there pulling strings. But Mia's strength, her unrelenting drive, anchored him. He couldn't let her face this alone. Ethan arrived at Station 12 with a proposal, his usual polish, replaced by a quiet resolve. He found Mia in the break room, her crew giving her space, but no longer avoiding her eyes. He said, "I've got an idea," and set a tablet on the table. Brooks Energy funds a community fire training center. State-of-the-art, open to the public, run by your team. It'll rebuild trust and secure your station's future. Mia's brow arched, skeptical but intrigued. You're still throwing money at problems, Brooks. Not at all problems, he said, his voice earnest at solutions. Your crew deserves this. You deserve this. She studied the plan's blueprints for a sleek facility with simulation rooms, medical bays, and public outreach spaces. It was ambitious even for Ethan. Why us? She asked. You could fund any station. Because you walked through fire for me, Ethan said, his eyes locked on hers. And because I believe in you, Mia. You're the heart of this. The words hit deeper than she expected, stirring the spark between them. Mia pushed it down, focusing on the plan. If I'm running this, it's on my terms. Community first, no corporate branding. Ethan grinned. Deal. The following week was a whirlwind. Ethan secured permits, leveraging his connections to fast-track construction. Mia rallied her crew, pitching the training center to restore their reputation and serve the city. Javier was hesitant, but came around, his loyalty to Mia outweighing his doubts. You're crazy, Torres, he said, clapping her shoulder. But I'm in. Captain Ramirez reinstated Mia, citing public pressure and the evidence clearing her name. She returned to duty, her badge heavy with meaning, but the station's budget was still razor-thin. The training center was their lifeline, and Mia threw herself into planning, working with Ethan to design a facility that honored firefighters' grit while embracing cutting-edge tech. They met daily at the construction site, a vacant lot near the bay, transformed into a hive of activity. Mia's firefighting expertise shaped the layout, realistic burn rooms, obstacle courses, hazmat sims, while Ethan's tech knowledge integrated VR training and energy-efficient systems. Their collaboration was seamless, their banter lightening the weight of their shared fight. But the patron's shadow lingered. Mia's phone stayed silent, but Ethan received another email. "The center won't save you." Attached was a blueprint of the construction site, marked with an X on the main training hall. "We're being watched," Mia said, her voice low as they stood on the site, workers hammering in the background. "The patron's still out there." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "I've got my hacker digging into Cole's contacts. If we can trace the patron, we can end this." Mia met his gaze, the spark between them flaring. "You're risking a lot, Ethan. Your company's barely holding on." "So are you," he said, stepping closer. "But we're stronger together." She didn't pull away. The air between them charged. The construction site hummed, but it was just them. For a moment, two people bound by fire trust, and something more profound. Mia broke the silence, her voice firm. "Let's finish this center. Then we hunt the patron." The training center took shape over weeks, its steel frame rising against the bay. Mia's crew trained volunteers teaching basic firefighting and first aid, rebuilding community ties. Ethan poured millions into the project, deflecting media attention to focus on the cause. The public responded, donations flooding in, hashtags like #Torres Triumph trending. Mia's suspension was officially lifted, and she was named director of the center, a role she accepted with fierce pride. At a press conference announcing the center's progress, Mia and Ethan stood side by side, their presence a united front. Mia spoke first, her voice clear. "This isn't about us. It's about the city and the people who trust us to keep them safe. This center will train heroes, save lives, and honor every firefighter who's ever run into the flames." Ethan followed, his tone steady. "Brooks Energy is committed to this city. We've made mistakes, but we're here to make it right, starting with this." The crowd cheered, cameras flashing. For the first time, the narrative shifted entirely in their favor. But as they stepped off the stage, Mia's phone buzzed with a text. "Nice speech. Enjoy it while it lasts." Ethan's email pinged simultaneously, and a new message appeared. "The center's a target. Step back or it burns." Mia's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "They're desperate," she said, showing Ethan the text. "That means we're winning." He nodded, his hand brushing hers. "We'll protect this, together." They doubled security at the site, installing cameras and hiring guards. Mia's crew ran nightly patrols, their trust in her solidifying as the center neared completion. Ethan's hacker traced the patron's emails to an encrypted server in Eastern Europe, but the trail went cold. Ethan said, "Whoever they are, they're deep in the shadows," frustration lacing his voice. Mia didn't flinch. "Then we shine a light. We open the center and show the city what we're made of. They want to scare us. We'll scare them back." Mia and Ethan stood on the site the night before the opening, the finished center gleaming under floodlights. Its glass facade reflected the bay, a symbol of resilience. "We did this," Mia said, her voice soft but proud. "We're not done," Ethan said, his eyes on her. "But yeah, we did well." The spark between them burned brighter, a flame neither could ignore. As they walked away, the city watched, unaware of the shadow still stalking them, waiting for its moment to strike. The San Francisco sun broke through the morning clouds, casting a golden glow over the new community fire training center. The lot by the bay was alive with energy. Hundreds gathered for the grand opening, their cheers mingling with the hum of news drones overhead. Mia Torres stood at the podium, her firefighter's uniform crisp, her badge gleaming with pride. As director, she'd poured her heart into this place, a beacon of hope for a city scarred by fires and lies. Her crew flanked her, their faces a mix of pride and relief, their trust in her restored. But the weight of the patron's last threat, the center's a target, kept her senses sharp. Ethan Brooks stood nearby, his presence quieter than usual, letting Mia take the spotlight. His company had funded the center, but he'd insisted it bear no Brooks Energy branding, a gift to the city, not a corporate flex. The past weeks had been brutal. Project Solstice's shutdown, the ongoing hunt for the patron, the relentless media scrutiny. Yet standing here watching Mia address the crowd, he felt a clarity he hadn't had in years. She was why he kept fighting the flame that lit his path. Mia's speech was direct, her voice carrying over the crowd. This center isn't just brick and glass. It's a promise to train to protect, to rebuild. Everyone can be part of that. We're not just firefighters. We're your neighbors, protectors, and family. The crowd roared and signs waved with #Torres Triumph and #SF Saves. Ethan stepped up next, his words brief but heartfelt. This is for San Francisco, for the heroes who run toward danger, for Mia Torres, who's shown us what courage really means. As applause thundered, Ethan caught Mia's eye, a shared spark passing between them. But the moment was cut short by a commotion at the crowd's edge. A man pushed forward, his face haggard, his clothes worn. Mia tensed, her instincts flaring, but he raised his hands, non-threatening. "I need to speak," he said, his voice hoarse. "To you, Torres. To Brooks." Security moved in, but Mia waved them off. "Let him talk." The man stepped onto the stage, and the crowd hushed. "My name's Danny," he said, his eyes darting. "I worked for Cole low-level, running errands, planting stuff. I was at the tower fire, the factory. I didn't know it'd go this far." His voice broke. "I'm done with that life. I want to make it right." Mia's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "What do you know about the patron?" Danny hesitated, glancing at the crowd. Not a name, but a deal. Cole was paid to tank Brooks Energy to ruin Solstice. Someone big wanted it gone, someone in the energy game. I don't know who, but they're watching, and always watching. Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "You have proof." Danny pulled a USB drive from his pocket, handing it to Mia. "Recordings, payments, and some emails. It's not everything, but it's a start." The crowd murmured, cameras flashing. Mia took the drive, her mind racing. This was the break they needed, but also meant the patron was closer than ever. She nodded at Danny. "You did the right thing. We'll protect you." As security escorted Danny away, the ceremony continued, but Mia and Ethan were already planning. They slipped into the center's command room, plugging the drive into a secure laptop. The files were raw, grainy audio of Cole discussing the Boss Bank transfers to offshore accounts, and fragments of emails mentioning a clean sweep of Brooks Energy. It wasn't enough to name the patron, but it was enough to keep digging. "We're close," Mia said, her eyes on the screen. "They're scared, or Danny wouldn't have come forward." Ethan nodded, his hand brushing hers. "You were incredible out there. This center, it's your legacy." Mia smiled, the weight of the fight easing momentarily. "Our legacy, Brooks. You didn't back down either." The crowd outside chanted her name, the opening ceremony peaking with a ribbon cutting. Mia and Ethan returned to the stage, scissors in hand, their hands touching as they cut the ribbon. The center's doors opened, and volunteers streamed in for the first training session. But as the celebration continued, Ethan pulled Mia aside, his expression serious. He said, "There's something I need to do," his voice low. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple but striking, forged from a twisted shard of metal. salvaged from the Brooks Energy Tower, where they'd first met in the flames. "Mia Torres," he said, dropping to one knee, the crowd gasping. "You've saved my life, my heart, my everything. Will you marry me?" Mia's breath caught the world narrowing to just them. The spark that had burned through every fire and threat blazed now undeniable. She looked into his eyes, seeing that the billionaire and the man who'd stood with her risked everything for her. "Yes," she said, her voice steady but soft. "Yes, Ethan." The crowd erupted cheers, drowning out the city's hum. Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, its weight a promise forged in fire. They embraced the moment raw and honest, a victory over the shadows that had tried to tear them apart. But as they pulled back, Danny's words echoed in Mia's mind. They're watching. The patron was still out there, their identity, a mystery, their threat lingering. Mia met Ethan's gaze, her resolve mirrored in his eyes. "We're not done," she said, her hand tightening on his. "I know," Ethan said, his voice fierce, "but we'll face it together." As the ceremony wound down, Danny approached them again, his eyes haunted but determined. "I'm training here," he said. "I want to be better. For my kid, for me. Thanks to you." Mia nodded, pride swelling. "You're one of us now." The center hummed with life, the city rallying around it. But in the shadows, a figure watched, a burner phone in hand, typing, "They think they've won. Let them." The patron's game wasn't over, and Mia and Ethan knew it. Their love, their fight, their flame, it would burn eternal, ready for whatever came next.